Hey guys, welcome back. We are doing a book talk. It is September so far, and we're just gonna go through the books that I've read this year and some of my favorite books and reads for this fall season. Super excited. I love talking about books. I do have a vlog talking about books, so go check that out if you are interested. My Goodreads is how we're gonna judge this and have our memory. So first I want to start off with what I'm currently reading. I am currently reading Zodiac Academy. It's going good so far. I'm liking it. I'm on page I'm on page 120 and I'm very excited to see how this goes. I'm really liking the dynamic so far of the sisters. A dual POV is always nice, but it being sisters that are twins is fire. I haven't had that yet before in anything that I've read, so I'm loving it. Of kind of like equals, because most of the times it's like a romance situation that they're trading off, but it's like your sisters like this. So I'm loving that so far and seeing their perspectives. I love Goodreads down. Makes me feel so organized in all the books that I've read and want to read. It was actually life-changing. So if you are a big reader and you don't have a Goodreads account, what are you doing? It makes me feel so just organized in that part of my life. And then I also have a notes in my notes app of all the books that I've read, so I kind of have both, but I can keep my TBR and what I want to read together on here, and I love it. I'm also currently reading this book, Metaphors of Consciousness. There's honestly no in between. It's either a romance or consciousness, I've been reading this one for a while at this point because it's like a textbook for me, honestly, just so that I can learn new ideas and kind of just educate that part of my mind. Now, a book that I adore is The Power of Now. It goes crazy. It's all about presence and consciousness and different dilemmas, but how it's not a dilemma because this is our life. It's up to us, and there's literally nothing to honestly overthink that much. But what do? We overthink, and we do what we do as humans. So yeah, it's a guide to spiritual enlightenment, and I love this. I only do notes honestly in these type of books. I don't really annotate my other books. Do a quick run through of the books that I want to read, and then we'll get into what we have read and so forth. The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, Throne of Glass. Ironically, I'm not in the Sarah J. Maas community. I want to be, and I think that is the book I'm going to start with. But there's just so many shorter series that I don't have to commit to as long, that I'm trying to get into and finish before I really commit. And it's crazy because I'm girl, just read the book. But I like to really be in them. I can only read one book at a time because my brain is not letting it happen. Our Secret Moments by Janisha Boswell, Banana Pants by Penny Reed, Take Over, Nana Malone, All About Love, Bell Hooks. There's some classics I really do want to get into as well, and just the whole all of it, because if you know, you know. There's just so much knowledge and expansion in books, and there's so many genres and classics, and they're classics for a reason, that I want to be a part of and just learn. I want to read Finna by Nate Marshall, and then continue some of the series that we're going to talk about. I really want to read Butcher and Blackbird. I think that's on my next book, since it is spooky season, fall books. I'm so excited for it. Those thrillers, they feel really good around this time of the year. Verity by Colleen Hoover, that's a good book, honestly. Her Aside, that's a decent little twist of a book, and I'm very interested in more books like that, honestly. A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer Armentrout, Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, Elle Kennedy. I really want to get into some Elle Kennedy books, and just so forth. This list is honestly so long, but I'm just really excited to be in my reading bag, Goodreads, they do have a 52 books challenge for the year, And that was my goal last year. So in 2023, I did read 52 books, and that was just my goal in general, to basically read a book for every week. It didn't happen like that, but that was the goal, and I did it, and I'm so proud. That made this year, I didn't really have that much of a reading goal except to read. So I'm currently at 20 books, 19, but the one that I'm reading right now makes it 20. And I'm very proud of that. I'm like, girl, who do you know has read 20 books this year? Like, come on. I know some people who are major readers and are already hitting the 52 mark, which is crazy, and I love to see it. But I'm at 20 right now. So this year so far, this is in the order too of what I've most recently read. Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. This is the second in the Lakefront Billionaires, and it's really good. Yeah, so this is like the second part kind of the Dreamland Billionaires series by Lauren Asher, and I really like this one. I love a nanny trope. I'm not gonna hold you. It's cute. It's like you care for the child and then y'all become a little family. Like, that's cute. I love a nanny trope because the dad's always so busy and stuff, and I'm just like, yeah. I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. Funny story. I really love Emily Henry. Just the style of the books are very light, but there's a little bit of like tension, but it's never too much, honestly. I really appreciate that. Throttled by Lauren Asher. If you notice a theme, I do like Lauren Asher books. I feel like there's like a good level of spice and plot, but like the tension building up to it is always pretty fire. Not gonna hold you. It was really good. I want to get the rest of this series specifically because I just really enjoyed like the F1 like car racing vibes. Like, that was cute. That was really cute. I realized like I was into like F1 drivers till this book, you know, like the idea. It's really cute, and I think it's so funny. Like, I feel like I don't have anyone to talk to about books like this because that's just what it is. So it's like girl, who am I gonna tell about this? But that book is good to me, and this is no judgment on their writing. This is strictly plot, strictly what I'm getting from the story. Spiritual books are where I am drawing the line, and like philosophical books and poetry about grammar and a proper sentence structure. Everything else, fair game personally. Flawless by Elsie Silver. Like, this was really good. I want to continue this, but I'm not in any rush because this one did take me a little while to like really just attach to. But I think the second one, a lot of people said was their favorite, I think. But I'm excited to get into this. This is not my priority. But the Dirty Air series by Lauren Asher is definitely priority. Okay, Caught Up by Liz Tomford. So good. I have another nanny trope for everyone. Caught Up. It's about a baseball player too. It's so good. This is the third book in the Wendy series, and I love the first one. Like, that was low-key a book that I actually related to because the characters were black. One thing for me is that honestly, I just changed the characters to how I want them to look, and I honestly, like, when they're describing them, I don't really attach to whatever the book is saying. I choose how I want them to look, however that may be. But with the first book of this series, yeah, that was a bit of me. I think that was my favorite book last year. Like, if I had to say a favorite book, it was definitely that one. Mile High was so good, and then so was The Right Move. Like, y'all, that book is so good, and if you don't know, now you do. If I had told her, this is the second one, that first book actually destroyed me, because if you know, you know, but if you haven't read this, I'm not going to judge the writing. There are some boring parts, but overall is what matters to me, and overall it made me sad, because the first one, it's that lead up and then that pitfall. That's what I like to feel and call it, of like lead up to pitfall energy, of like this beautiful love story, casual, normal love story happening, and then something tragic happens, and that will get me every time. That I try to avoid emotional books, honestly, because I can't. You should see me with the TV series. I attach to those characters, but I feel like a book is even that much more personal, that I will cry at a drop of a hat if something goes wrong. And this is one of them. The second one, it did not help. I read it all in one night before my mom went on a trip, because I was not going to be left alone with these emotions at home alone. Like, that was not happening. So I read this all in one sitting, and it was a lot, and I was sad, but here we are. Yeah, If He Had Been With Me is the first one, and then If Only I Had Told Her, and then it's his POV. It's these POVs that are in separate books that will get me every time, because you're never really knowing what someone else is thinking unless it's all in the same book. So this being like the other perspective is crazy, because you just know that it's different. It's so good in an emotional way, guys. A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime. And this was a very good book, in the sense that if you read the first one, there was a lot going wrong with that book, honestly, but I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna hold you, but it was a lot going on. This one definitely felt more calm, and that's to say a lot, but it did feel a lot more calm. So I was like, okay. And it was a different perspective. I think the author went on a different route instead of continuing that route for the second book, and I'm happy for it, because like I did enjoy this. It was sweet to an extent, but it was still a hot mess. But I recommend, like, I'm not hard to please in the book area, because I'm just like, I will laugh at something that's stupid, because I'm like, no. But then if it's just something that's just completely wrong and a mess, it's just like, bro, why would you write that? But here I am reading it, because what do I look like not finishing a book? Girl, the way these books were so good to me, because I loved all of the guys. I loved them all, and that's kind of rare for me to like actually like all of the guys in a series. I feel like there's always something that's like, okay, like, you're just not my favorite, or there's an attitude problem that I can't quite shake. But these, all of them, has something special to me that I was like, okay, period. Like Lucian and Sloane were my favorite. And it's just crazy of like, the first one you think is the best, and then you're on the second one, you're like, oh, this is kind of good. Then the third one, that final one, is always going to do it for me for all of these series. That's why it's like, I love working my way through a series, because I'm like, oh, you're fundamental. Like, you know how like they sprinkle people throughout the entire thing, and you're like a little curious about them, building that anticipation for that character. They be putting their whole into that last character of the book, and I love it. Or like towards the end of the series, I love it so much. Like, top tier to me. So I read all three of those, and then I read Book Lovers with Emily Henry. One of my favorite tropes in a book for both readers, or like one's a librarian, because they just love to do that. Like, I loved Book Lovers for their mutual space of work and how they could understand and relate to each other, but they had beef. Like, that was a good book to me, because I just enjoyed like that. I love reading trope. Like, it's amazing and it's sweet, and that is something that, like, if you're a reader, I know the idea of wanting to read with your partner is just top tier. Feels great to even like the idea of it. Like yes, was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I devoured that. I was listening to the audio of that book while I was braiding my hair, and that was the best experience ever. I won't forget it. I wanted to hear every storyline, each chapter, everything. I really enjoyed that book for its intention, and just like the plot of like a girl just trying to find her way, and this is like the end of her life of trying to find her way, and then the tragedy in life that happens, but also the love, and then just doing what you want because that's what it should be. And that was just such a good book to me for every reason it stood for. The other book I read was The Nanny by Lana Ferguson. That was a good book. I don't like sometimes that the tension building up of the characters when they just seem so like, oh, he could never like me, or she could never like me. Like, that does bother me, because I'm just like, just say what you mean, but I guess that would defeat the whole purpose of a book, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was really good for like, you know, the spice and the like, oh, it was her and all that. Really good book I read in February, I believe. Surround This Life by Renee Carlino. That was a good book. I really loved the perspective and the time jump perspective. I didn't realize I really enjoyed that until I started reading this author, and I do want to read more books by her. I don't know if every book is like that, but the 2 I have read were, and I was like, oh, okay. Then she wrote this book, Before We Were Strangers, and this was honestly my favorite book this year so far. And like I would recommend this to anyone. It was a quick read. It was intentional. It had such a lovely storyline, and it was so sweet and so carefully written in my eyes, of like, this is like what love is, and like how simple, but then time and miscommunication and just life happening. I think those are some of my favorite types of books as well, are realistic books of a love story, of either regrets or saying something when you should have and then they come back together, or that's just is what it is. But I just love it so much because there's so much heart in it, and that's like a quality book to me. If I haven't read it, I would say to go read it because I enjoyed it a lot. The audio of was Love Radio by Ebony Liddell. I love a Black romance story, and it's just sweet. It was a sweet book because they were young and just understanding each other, and that is something that I really respect. Like the kind of youthful books that aren't so spicy or anything like that. They're just sweet, and I genuinely enjoyed the sweetness of a book. Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. So good. That's the first one to the Lakefront Billionaires. I enjoy a realistic love story because I am a hopeless romantic, and I think there's nothing hopeless about being a romantic, but I'm like, they found each other again, you know? Like, that's the important sweet part, you know? First books this year that I did listen to as an audiobook was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and that was so good. That started my year off pretty good, I'm not gonna hold you, because it was like, it was the intention. You know how a new year feels, and like you want to do everything under the sun, and I feel like that is a memory that I have of the beginning of the year, was honestly letting go of a lot of things. And I'm not very into those motivational speaker type of books, more of a spiritual person than those type, and that's just my personal preference, and like honestly to each their own. But that was like very insightful for me to step out of my comfort zone in reading specifically and get a perspective that I like, just with a different speaker, you know? Like, it's somewhat the same type of vibe of doing what you want as far as like conscious books go, but it was more of a different perspective coming from this person. So I did enjoy it for that reason, and like that firsthand experience of a person giving their story. So those are all the books that I've read this year so far, and I'm very excited to continue to read some books. Yeah, I'm just going to list my favorite books. Something that I'm eager to read is always going to be cozy for me, no matter the time of the year. So here are some of my favorites. This was a hard choice, picking my all-time favorite books. And not to say there aren't more, but these just do something a little different. First book, this was my favorite book of last year. It was in between these two. This one was a little spicy, so I wouldn't tell anyone that this was my favorite, but it is. But this was like a good, like I would recommend to anybody. But Love in Other Words, it has like, it's a really good story with a little bit of heartbreak. If you can't tell, I'm into that. I do enjoy a sport themed book, but I just enjoy like a guy who cares, and these seem like they care, especially in this series, a lot about the girl. So really am appreciative of that. book one. I read this entire series. I think it is a bit off guard. I'm not gonna hold you. Didn't know what I was getting when I read it, but we got something. A private institution type of book, and it just has a lot that goes on, and I ate them up for whatever reason. I don't know if I would recommend this, but I just know that I liked it. So read at your own risk, I guess. Now some books with a little more substance. Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I read it with my sister, so it was a very good reflective book. It's a very good reflective book that I would recommend to anyone, just so you have like some reflection time and kind of just taking it in for what it is, like anxiety. I think these types of books are some of my favorites because they do ease my anxiety as a very anxious person of the grand scheme. I'm very anxious about it all, existential and things like that, and these do ease my anxiety. All That You Deserve and All Along You Were Blooming. These are poetry books, and they're some of my favorite poetry books because I just love like a book catered to you to make you feel better, and that's what poetry kind of is for me. It's kind of like a story of expression without saying what you're saying, but also saying what you mean. These are the type of books that I like to annotate as well, just keeping tabs on like poems that I really liked. Back of this book says, "You deserve to be loved, you deserve to feel free." I have a deserving tattoo. I got this book not really like, I just liked the way it looked, and I'm happy to have gotten it because it is a really good reminder of you are a deserving person no matter what. You deserve forgiveness, to be loved, all of the things. Like, I just genuinely love a good poetry book because they very much so cater to me and my heart. It's Verity. I know how it goes, but it definitely kept me on my toes. Like, I really like suspense in a book because I feel like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Like, it's a page turner. I don't get bored. I just need to know. I can't really stop what I'm doing, you know? So that is a great thing, one of my favorite things. I already know Before We Were Strangers would 110% read again. I kind of want to read it again. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, like the Fourth Ring series, this is so good. I'm so looking forward to the next one. I think I've never been able to, like, this is a book of like a fantasy type dystopian book, and I never thought that was my thing, but it apparently is, because these are some of my favorite books. I love the amount of romance in it, but also like the twistedness of it, of like Final Destination type ish, and it's crazy because I didn't think I would like that, but I am really excited for this series to continue. I'm not gonna hold you, like, it's just very good. I know there's a lot of controversy and stuff, but that aside, I like these books outside of a lot of problems that these authors tend to have. No shade, but yeah. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this book talk. I'm so happy to have been able to share this with you guys. Check out my channel, keep everything I like to do. Let me know some of your favorite books. Like, what do you recommend based on the stuff that I like? I'm so down to know. Like, please talk to me. I have no one, like, who am I going to tell this about, you know? Like, let's be bestie boos. If you're a big reader or if you want to get into reading, this is your sign. So yeah, love you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you later.